Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 2nd of April and we will be dealing with two very important topics which are in news. The first is, should free movement regime end with Myanmar? This free movement regime started in 1968 to facilitate the cultural and economic exchanges of the people living across the border in both these countries because people had a lot of cultural similarities. There are Nagas, Kukis, Chins living here in India as well as in Myanmar across the border. Then in 2004, certain restrictions were imposed because this was, leading to increased drug trafficking, arms trafficking, and such like. In 2018, finally, a restriction was imposed where movement was allowed until 16 kilometers into each other's territories only. A pass had been issued and a pass which was valid for 1 year allowed you for a stay of not more than 2 weeks at a time. Now in 2024, Government of India announced that it is going to end the free movement regime, but still it is not ended. The question is, should it end or not? What would be the implications of ending it? Obviously, national security will be ensured in a much better way. Drug trafficking, and arms trafficking will be tackled. So let's see what happens. Next is Bangladesh leader Mohammed Yunus remarks on India. He was on a 4-day visit to China and there he passed on certain remarks keeping into consideration the landlocked nature of the northeast India. He invited Chinese companies to Bangladesh and said that we can cater to the Chinese market as well as the entire world from here. But what was the point of indexing Northeast's landlocked nature? Was he inviting Chinese to invade Northeast and then come to Bangladesh for doing business? And in response, a lot of, I would say, politicians in India have criticized these remarks. Obviously, Bangladesh and India's relations are strained and Bangladesh and Chinese relations are growing in the recent times. But let's see how things unfold from now. Now let's get started with the first topic, that should free movement regime with Myanmar end. Now this free movement regime was aimed at facilitating the cultural economic exchanges between the people living across the border. Yes, there are 4 states in India which share a boundary with Myanmar. This is Arunachal, Nagaland, Manipur and Mizoram. And people living across the border over here in India and people living across the border in Myanmar, they are having good cultural connections. They are belonging to the same ethnicity largely. So to facilitate this cultural exchange, and they have economic ties as well, this free movement regime was launched in the year 1968. This free movement regime allowed people from across the border. Let's suppose this person from Myanmar wants to come to India. That person can travel without a visa. A pass will be issued. But slowly and gradually the government in India found out that it is leading to a lot of chaos. Insurgency was widespread, prevalent in Northeast at that time, or it was spreading in Northeast. So availability of arms, availability of drugs to these insurgent groups from across the border was easy because of this free movement regime. Then in 2004, government started to rethink that what should be done. So some restrictions were imposed. Then finally in 2018, other restrictions like you can only get access to this free movement regime within 16 kilometers of the border. So 16 kilometers into India, 16 kilometers into Myanmar. This is the area of restricted area of movement for people coming across the border. A pass will be issued which will be valid for 1 year, and once you go or once you enter the other country, you will be allowed to stay there for 2 weeks only. After that, you have to return. So this was the situation post 2018. But in February 2024, the Union Home Minister announced plans to scrap the free movement regime along the India-Myanmar border. Now, these unregulated cross-border movements were contributing to ethnic conflicts. But Ministry of External Affairs has yet to issue a formal notification. Announcement was done to end this free movement regime, was just existing since 1968. But it has not come into force as of now. So with problems like in Manipur, which are going on since 2023. We need to, we also witnessed during that problem that there was a lot of support from across the border, which was flaring up the, I would say, issue or the conflict. And that is why in 2024 that decision was, or that announcement was taken by the government. But yes, it has not become a reality. And that is why the question that should free movement regime end? Now, what is free movement regime? It allows citizens of India and Myanmar's border regions to cross into each other's country without a visa within a specific limit. And this specified limit now is 16 kilometers into India, 16 kilometers into Myanmar. It was introduced in 2018, the current version, as part of India's Act East policy. India's Act East policy aims at integrating with ASEAN countries. Myanmar is part of ASEAN, economically, culturally and strategically. So yes, economic integration is obviously one of the ultimate objectives of free movement regime. Regime allows individuals living near the border to travel up to 16 kilometers into the neighboring country. And those residing along the border are granted a 1-year border pass that permits stay of up to 2 weeks in neighboring countries. So this is all what I had told you earlier also. Now we've discussed this from the slide. Now, historical context. You know that after the Anglo-Burmese War, there were multiple, I think 2 or 3 Anglo-Burmese War. Burma, that is the present day Myanmar, became a province under British India. And in 1937, it was made a separate colony under British India. So much of this northeast was under Burmese occupation until the Treaty of Yandabu in 1826, which was signed, and this Treaty of Yandabu established the current India-Myanmar boundary. Treaty was signed between British and the Burmese, ending the first Anglo-Burmese War. So some portion of Burma which is present in northeast, was taken by the Britishers into India. And then after the second Anglo-Burmese War, third Anglo-Burmese War, entire Burma was captured by the Britishers. This border, however, divided communities with shared ethnic and cultural backgrounds, such as the Nagas in Nagaland and Manipur, Kuki, Chin, Mizo communities in Manipur and Mizoram without their consent. So that boundary divided, and that is why there are cultural similarities across the border. Currently, India and Myanmar share 1643 kilometers of border through Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. These 4, I would say, the northeastern states share a boundary with Myanmar. Now, impact of FMR on border communities. So, for communities in Mizoram which share an international border with Myanmar, the FMR had limited impact. It was like they were already crossing, the border was porous, and it is just now a stamp given by the government. And it was like कि क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Earlier also we were doing, now also we are doing. That was the, I would say, mindset. Historically, cross-border transactions have been a part of everyday life, with people on both sides maintaining strong business and familial relationships. This was also due to, the weak border guarding forces, the terrain over there which is difficult, that is mountain terrain, so it is easy to cross the border and all. The 16-kilometer restrictions imposed in 2004 did not substantially change the nature of these interactions. These nature of interactions continued. For other border communities, the FMR is largely unknown. It does not impact them. It impacts those living in the border areas, and that too, they are saying that if it is there, not a problem. If it is not there, then also not a problem. So if you search India-Myanmar border on Google and go to the images part, so you will see an image where there is this fatak kind of border and a person is crossing from besides that, border crossing freely, easily. To say it is a closed border, it is not an open border, but it is not, or it is loosely guarded, I would say. Now, center's security concerns, that why center did announce in 2024 that we are going to fence the entire border and we are going to end the free movement regime. Because of increased infiltration. This increased infiltration was causing a lot of problems here in India. Insurgency rising, crisis in Manipur, that was not coming to an end. Now, this is feared to strain local resources and impact the demographic makeup of border areas as well. The demographic disturbance can also be there. Drug trafficking and arms smuggling, that is on the rise. In 2022, Manipur reported 500 cases and 625 arrests under the narcotics, drugs and psychotropic substances, and they came from across the border. Myanmar, let's not forget, is part of the Golden Triangle, which is one of the world's largest drug producing region. Insurgency activities, because arms trafficking and all arms supply to such kind of groups was on the rise. It was easier for those groups to go to Myanmar and take refuge over there, run their operations from there. So that was basically being done. Socio-economic and regional issues, those were also rising. Cultural identity, as I said, that demographic changes could have happened. There are concerns about preservation of indigenous cultures and traditions, because people from across the border, though belonging to the same tradition, but yes, some not belonging to the same tradition, they come and settle in India. We know the regime in Myanmar, it is under military junta, and here in India it is a democratic setup. So people want to live under a democratic setup. Environmental degradation, unregulated cross-border movement has been linked to illegal resource extraction. Regional dynamics, China's growing influence in Myanmar has added complexity to the security situation. So that is also a concern, that China's involvement is there, and China would never want stability in India. So it is coming, or it can come through this route via Myanmar. Many concerns are there. Major aspects of India-Myanmar relations, if I talk about, Treaty of Friendship 1951, it was signed, and this Treaty of Friendship entailed that we need to increase trade, we need to respect each other's territorial integrity, sovereignty and such like, and it formed the foundation of the diplomatic relations between both these countries. Economic cooperation, India is Myanmar's fourth largest trading partner and a major source of investment. So yes, we've done a lot of investments over there. In fact, India has done such kind of investments which India has not done in any other ASEAN country. Collaborative projects include Kaladan Multimodal Transit Project, which enhances connectivity to the northeast. Trilateral Highway Project, India, Myanmar, Thailand Trilateral Highway Project. This is under construction. Kaladan Multimodal Project is completed. It is ending up at the Sitwe port, which is constructed by India. Then disaster relief. India has been prompt in providing disaster relief to Myanmar during natural calamities like Cyclone Mora in 2017, the earthquake in Shan State in 2010. Presently also India launched Operation Brahma, which we covered yesterday, during the earthquake, and this is basically for providing medical assistance. Should FMR continue? What are the alternatives? This is what we need to know and understand. Monitoring and regulation, while FMR could be reformed to better monitor cross-border movement, completely scrapping it may not address the underlying issues. Completely scrapping it, illegally the movement is happening. That is why the border communities are saying that FMR is there or not there, that doesn't impact us. So what we need to do, we need to keep it there, we need to increase the surveillance. Instead, border areas could be more effectively managed by strengthening monitoring mechanisms and fostering better communication between Indian and Myanmar authorities. Legalizing trade, legalizing some forms of cross-border trade could help curb illegal activities and generate revenue for the government on both the sides. By formalizing trade, government could also ensure proper regulation of goods moving across the border. Community involvement, involving local communities in discussions and giving them a sense of ownership and responsibility, and making them believe that FMR is something which is very important. FMR, if it is not there, then this cross-border movement will stop, and that will only happen if we have fenced the border completely, and that is what India is doing. It has announced that it will end FMR, and simultaneously it has started to fence the border, so that the locals get to know ki bhai, FMR is something which is important. If it is not there, then there will be no connections from people across the border, because it is technically speaking a closed border. So we need to give it this kind of approach. Practicality of fencing the border. Proposal to fence the 1700-kilometer India-Myanmar border faces significant practical challenges. One of the biggest practical challenges is the terrain, including the difficult terrain and the complex nature of the border region. Even in countries with advanced infrastructure, such as the US, fences have proven ineffective in completely preventing illegal border crossings. So USA has done it with Mexico, but still people are crossing it. Offence could also exacerbate tensions with local communities, many of whom share close ethnic and familial ties with people across the border, and these communities may see such measures as an infringement on their personal rights. So, yes, we need to consider this, the practicality, and what a suggestive measure here could be: fence the border, increase monitoring, keep the FMR alive, so that the importance of FMR is felt by the local communities. So, implement that diligently. That is what we can know and understand from this topic. Next is Bangladesh leader Mr. Mohammad Yunus was on a 4-day visit to China, and there he passed on certain remarks. And in these remarks, at the center was Northeast India. He was wanting to highlight Northeast India's landlocked nature. He was wanting to highlight dependency of Northeast India on Bangladesh for the oceans. And he invited Chinese to build or to develop infrastructure in Bangladesh. Now, since the fall of the Sheikh Hasina government and coming of Mohammad Yunus, the relations between India and Bangladesh are strained, and relations of China and Bangladesh have been growing. So, China sitting north of us, on one side it has very good deep relations with Pakistan, and on the other hand with Bangladesh. It is gaining prominence. So, it is wanting to clutch India on both the sides like this. But let's see, our diplomatic efforts are also ongoing. So, who wins the race? Let's see. Well, more important than winning the race is establishing peace and stability in the region. That should be the ultimate aim of diplomacy in this region. Obviously, things are getting difficult, but yes, things should be tackled in this way. So, the interim leader of Bangladesh, Mohammad Yunus, sparked a diplomatic controversy with remarks made during his 4-day visit to China from March 26 to 29. Now, his statement comes at a time when India-Bangladesh relations are already strained, especially as China has been increasing and making overtures to Bangladesh, complicating India's diplomatic presence in Bangladesh. So, what he highlighted was, he highlighted that this northeast region, the Seven Sisters, they are landlocked in nature. North is China, here is Bhutan, here is Myanmar, south is Bangladesh. And to depend upon trade, international trade from northeast, India will have to be dependent upon Bangladesh. So, there are two ports in Bangladesh of which we have access, the Chattogram and the Mongla port, from where trade with northeastern states is happening directly. The Sheikh Hasina government signed this agreement with us, Chattogram and Mongla ports. And why we are at a back foot when it comes to northeast? Because the Chicken's Neck corridor is the only land route connectivity to northeast from mainland India. We'll have to go through Bangladesh if we have to go to northeast India. So that is what this peculiar situation Mohammad Yunus understands, and that is why he passed on these remarks. Chicken's Neck is a very prized corridor for China also. China also knows that if I come on to the Chicken's Neck, I will cut off the entire northeast from India. So that is what Mohammad Yunus also highlighted when he was there in China. He invited the Chinese companies to come and establish their presence in Bangladesh, do trade with the world from here, and do trade with China also from here. Now, one interpretation is that Chinese company being established over here in Bangladesh doing trade with China, what does it mean? Will that trade pass through northeast? Will India allow it? Or is China planning to capture northeast? So all these things have raised questions and have raised eyebrows. So let's see this topic and let's understand. Now, what did Yunus say? Yunus described the 7 northeastern states of India, Assam, Arunachal, Manipur, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram and Tripura, known as the Seven Sisters, as landlocked, stating they have no way to reach out to the ocean. That is true. Geographically, they have no way to reach out to the ocean. Bangladesh as a strategic gateway. He further declared that Bangladesh is the only guardian of the ocean for this region, this Bay of Bengal region. He suggested that Bangladesh could serve as an economic link for Northeast India to the wider world, especially by facilitating trade between China and the rest of the globe. So what was he wanting? Was he wanting trade to come to Bangladesh via Northeast? Or was he wanting, or was he threatening India that if you don't, come to terms with me, I have good relations increasing with China and we can conquer Northeast? What was it? China's economic interest. Yunus added that Bangladesh could potentially act as extension of Chinese economy, offering opportunities to build, produce and market goods which could be exported to China and beyond. So those trade relations can further increase. But there were certain responses by leaders in India. So how did India respond? So leaders from Northeast India, Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma, the Chief Minister of Assam, strongly condemned Yunus' remarks. He termed them as offensive and noted that such comments play into the vulnerability narrative of India's chicken's neck corridor, the narrow land strip of 22 kilometers. That is the only land connectivity route from mainland India to Northeast India. He also stressed the need for improving infrastructure in the region, including the development of robust railway and road networks. He suggested that the chicken's neck vulnerability could be mitigated by exploring alternative road routes bypassing Bangladesh entirely, which would lessen dependence on the corridor. So, what would be these routes? Let us understand, or I would say let us understand with time. But yes, he was highlighting that Mohammed Yunus is trying to threaten India because of its vulnerability, and that vulnerability is due to the chicken's neck corridor. But let's see how India, or I would say actually what would be the response of the government. Reduce the dependency on Bangladesh for connectivity with Northeast and reduce the dependency on chicken's neck corridor. What would be the alternative? I think the alternative is air connectivity only. National political reactions. Pawan Kheda, a Congress leader, criticized Indian government's foreign policy, accusing Bangladesh of aligning with China to encircle India, especially with region to be to the northeast. So he was criticizing government of India that is your foreign policy really working. He warned that Manipur and Arunachal Pradesh were already at risk, pointing out that China has been establishing villages in Arunachal. Gaurav Gogoi, a Congress MP from Assam, also raised concerns. He pointed out the contradiction between the strong ties that Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized in his communications with Bangladesh and Yunus' recent remarks, which were viewed as undermining India's territorial integrity. So, he said that Prime Minister Modi has said that he is having strong ties with Mohammed Yunus, but these strong ties are not visible on ground. They are contradicting with the recent statement passed out by Mr. Mohammed Yunus. N. Biren Singh, the former Chief Minister of Manipur, also condemned Mr. Yunus' remarks, accusing Bangladesh of trying to use Northeast India as a strategic pawn and in its geopolitical maneuvering, especially with China's involvement. So, he was obviously critical. So, most of the political leaders in India are critical of the remarks passed out by Mr. Mohammed Yunus in China, keeping into, index northeastern India. If you have to increase relations with China, you increase it, but you do not bring into index India, that is Northeast India. This is what the context of the situation is. Now, why are Yunus' remarks problematic for India? Chicken's neck corridor, that is, I would say, a vulnerability. It is also known as the Siliguri corridor, is the only land link between India's northeastern states and rest of the country. It is strategically critical as it is the narrow strip of land connecting India with Bangladesh and providing access to northeast. We've seen that on the map as well. Any disruption in the chicken's neck would sever northeast's connection, and this geographic vulnerability is a long-standing concern for India. And China, Bangladesh, they both understand this vulnerability for India. So, India need to, I would say, overcome this vulnerability. How? We can better the infrastructure, we can deploy more forces over there to secure this region, and this region should be actually very much intact, I would say. Strategic importance. Northeast is not just important for internal connectivity perspective, it also holds geopolitical value. In India's relations with neighboring countries like China, Bhutan, Nepal, even Myanmar, I would add over here. Even Bangladesh I would add over here. China's increasing presence in South Asia, particularly is through its Belt and Road Initiative. Its increasing presence in Pakistan, its increasing presence in countries like Nepal now, Bangladesh now, is obviously a growing concern for India. It is a strategic concern for India because China is trying to encircle India. Yunus comments may be viewed as Bangladesh positioning itself as a potential geopolitical ally of China, which could pose challenges to India's strategic positioning in the region. So India is a dominant player in South Asian region, but yes, these comments coming from Muhammad Yunus obviously signify China's growing position in this region, which is obviously not a good news for India. It is generally believed that India and China are competing with each other in the South Asian region, and this competition can turn adverse as well. Obviously, this is not going to be good for India. Now, economic and trade implications. So, Yunus implied that Bangladesh could serve as a link for regional trade, facilitating access to sea for China, which is crucial aspect for China's broader economic ambitions in the region. So, China will bypass the Strait of Malacca by increasing its presence in Bangladesh. It will not have to be dependent upon Strait of Malacca. It is having that Malacca dilemma that will be taken care of, and Chinese would be eyeing this. And in this partnership or growing partnership between Bangladesh and China, Northeast should not be compromised. That should be the first priority of India. Second priority for India is that India's relations with Bangladesh, and for that matter India's relations with China also, they should also strengthen, leading to stability. What is the point of doing competition in this region? Obviously, it is too idealistic to say that there is no point of doing competition, but yes, it is but natural to have competition, and if there is competition, then we should be ahead of China. This should be the thought process. Now, the bigger picture, the recent tensions between India and Bangladesh have complicated the diplomatic history with cooperation in areas like trade, counter-terrorism and regional stability. Border security is also somewhat become questionable. But yes, ultimate solution is that a democratically established government should be there. If foreign forces are getting involved, then India should also get involved in this, I would say, region. America might also be interested because China is also there. So all these things will come into play. And amidst this, will Bangladesh's sovereignty and territorial integrity be compromised? Well, anything can happen. This world is not, I would say, such an idealistic world. Anything can happen. So if Bangladesh is bringing in China, USA can also enter. Bangladesh should not forget that. And keeping in mind the current scenario, or I would say the current leader as the POTUS, Mr. Donald Trump, definitely will be vouching and doing all sorts of things to contain China's rise. And that can work in India's favor. So that is what we need to know and understand. And obviously, Bangladesh should also understand. Now coming on to the MCQs based on these topics. First, which of these states do not share a boundary with Myanmar? Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland or Meghalaya? Carefully answer this. Second, consider the following statements with respect to free movement regime and mark the correct one. FMR was introduced in 1968 to facilitate the cultural and economic exchange. It was restructured in 2018, which restricted the movement up to 16 kilometers inside both the countries with the pass valid for 14 days. Only one, only two, both one and two, neither one nor two. Third, which of these states do not share a boundary with Bangladesh? Mizoram, Assam, Tripura, Manipur. Straightforward question it is. And the fourth question, which of these ports in Bangladesh have Chinese presence established? Chattogram, Chittagong, Mongla or none of the above. Now coming on to the MCQs of yesterday. Consider the following statements with respect to BISAG N and mark the correct one. It is an autonomous scientific society registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. Yes, this statement is absolutely correct. It operates under Ministry of Science and Technology. No, it operates under the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. So this statement is wrong. First statement is correct. So MEITY. This is the ministry under which it works. Only one is the correct option. Second, where is Bizag and headquartered? This is very simple, straightforward. It is Gandhinagar, not Ahmedabad, not Bengaluru, not Hyderabad. Third, which of these is correct about PM Gati Shakti? It is an infrastructure financing model? No. It is a digital tool on which 16 ministries are present for better coordination for implementation of the projects. So it is not about financing those infrastructure projects, it is about better coordination. Its platform is developed by Bizag. This is correct. So only two, that is B, is going to be the correct option over here. Fourth, recently Operation Brahma was in news. What is it related to? Reconstruction and redevelopment in Myanmar post earthquake? No, currently we are not talking about reconstruction and redevelopment. Neither we are talking about reconstruction and redevelopment in Thailand. We are currently talking about medical assistance to Myanmar in the aftermath of the earthquake. This is what Operation Brahma is all about. So C is going to be the correct option over here. So with this, I think, yes, with this we've ended today's session. I'll be meeting you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising. Namaste, Jai Hind.